Good evening. Welcome to the February 11th remote school committee meeting. First order, I'd like to call the meeting to order. Sean?
Here.
John?
Here.
Tom?
Here.
Aaron?
Here.
Carla?
Here.
And Chuck is here. So the purpose of tonight's meeting is to deliberate and vote on a new superintendent to begin leading the Reading Public Schools on July 1st, 2021. So before we get started, I know we've thanked people, but there's never too many thank yous. So I just really would like to thank the screening committee who put together a very thorough process and excellent candidates leading us to our decision tonight. I'd also like to thank the staff that worked a lot behind the scenes and helping us stay on target to meet this really tight time frame that we put out. And thanks to the committee for signing on to the timeline and sticking with it and doing a great job through the process. And also like to thank Dorothy Presser from Mass Association of School Committees for her guidance, which was extremely valuable through the process. And of course, always thank you to the community for their part in the process. And just so everybody knows in the community, before tonight, the process really started back in August, I think, when we talked about hiring a search firm, and then we picked that Mass Association of School Committees, and then set up the screening committee and did all the community forums and as well as the site visits and the interviews. So just really was a lot that went into this decision, and thank you to everybody in the committee for what I think was a very good process. And from those that I've heard from, feedback wise, it's all been positive about it. So having said that, I'd like to talk about the voting procedure for tonight. So I was going to ask Tom if you could, if you have the ability, can you share that document that went out?
Sure.
Thank you.
Can you all see that?
Yep.
Yes.
Okay. So I just jumped to step 6, Chuck, and since the voting one is one you wanted to talk about. And as long as everybody can see it, we can walk our way through it.
Okay, so it's kind of so the vote will follow a process that I think is will start with what I'll call almost like a ballot type of vote, and then from there we'll proceed to a motion from that, if depending on how that comes out, and that motion will be a roll call. The way I'd like to start tonight is I'd like to have each committee member just talk about their top candidate and why. I don't want to have each committee member go through each candidate, just because, whatever we have to say, good or bad, about a candidate, that sticks with them because this becomes a public record. So I really want to just talk about who you think the next superintendent should be, not who it should be and why it shouldn't be somebody else. Does that make sense to people? I think any constructive feedback to a candidate can be done privately and on, or offline. But I'd like to stick to tonight, just each committee members, who they would view as their top candidate and why. Does anybody object to that? Tom?
I mean, just to echo or agree, just so we make sure there's some discussion on it, I think that is more than appropriate, and focus on the positive really is essentially what you're asking for. This is going to be a tough night to discuss. I'm sure that there's going to be at least a few of us that have a difference of opinion, but if we focus on the positive and work through what each of the candidates bring that match our needs as part of that conversation, and not worry about the negative side, then we keep ourselves safe, and we also very much respect the privacy of the individuals involved as well. Yeah. So thank you.
I think if we go through and I have no idea what people are thinking, but if we went through the process I outlined and we got through, say 4 or 5 committee members that are leaning towards the same candidate, we can then very quickly go to a vote after that, a motion and a vote after that. Even if the vote was 4-1 or 5-1, say, we could then re-deliberate again from that, if that makes sense.
So actually, that brings up a good point, Chuck. One thing that the document suggests is a declaration by you, making sure that you're declaring how many affirmative votes are necessary to elect a candidate. So if there's abstentions, right, we could get to a 3-2 point where somebody abstains and a majority vote may win. But I don't know if you had thought about that yet, about what affirmative votes you would want to make sure is the right number.
So I guess it's 4, right? That's a majority.
So it's it's a majority of the entire sitting committee as opposed to a majority of those who vote.
Correct.
Okay. You got questions for Aaron and John?
Sean, did you have something?
Yeah, I think Aaron beat me to the punch. Go ahead, Aaron.
I was just going to say I understand what you're getting at, Tom, but as Chuck was saying before the meeting started, this is one of the primary responsibilities of us as school committee members. So I sincerely hope no one will abstain. I think I'm not convinced that we will be 6-0 on a candidate, but I think it's important that we all vote and be able to stand by our votes. So I just wanted to say that.
Okay, thank you.
100% agree. I just the document allows for that possibility, and so we're just trying to make sure we clarify where we go in that regard. I agree. Nobody should abstain. This is one of the most important things we do, but it's a possibility that somebody does. So just account for the possibilities.
Sean?
I was just going to say I support your proposal that we sort of each share our preference, with the provision that I ask that you not cold call on anybody and let let us jump in when we feel like we're ready to. If that's okay.
That's fine, Sean. Yeah. Thanks for sharing your wishes, because I was going to cold call. So I think is everyone good with that now? So we're ready to go. If does someone want to take it first, or?
You want me to read this real quick, or do you want to read that real quick?
Oh, sure. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Yeah.
I move that we proceed to the discussion related to the superintendency and appointment of a superintendent of schools.
Second.
Sean,
Aye.
Aaron,
Aye.
Carla,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Chuck, aye. Okay. Now I'd open it up to discussion with anybody who wants to start.
I'll go ahead and
Tom?
start. It's interesting to see how we work our way through this. I guess I'll say this as a little bit of echo there from somebody, but this is probably the most arduous decision and process we've been through. You know, some of us, everybody's been involved in the arduous decision over the last, couple weeks, in particular, where it's been really heavy with the site visits. But even if we go back and think through, as Chuck was saying, August, October, November, December, January, the selection committee, etc. It's been a lot, but it's been a really enlightening process in many ways, about different things that happen in different districts, different people, the different skills they bring, the different energy, the different backgrounds that can come to the table. And even up until sitting down to dinner with my family at 6 o'clock tonight, I was going back and forth, and trying to figure out which candidate I wanted to say was the one I was most comfortable with. And I think there's probably, really, there were two back and forth with, although all three were excellent in their own ways. And so my starting position here is, I'm looking at this as somebody who I hope can take this district, using one candidate's words, from good to great and great to excellent, and somebody who will do that over a long period of time. Somebody who will inspire the community, inspire the teachers, build the leadership amongst the teachers, build the leadership amongst the principals. Somebody who has that leadership acumen in particular. When we met with, and the person I'm speaking of right now is Mr. Tom Milashevsky. When we met with the site visit for him in particular, we had some wonderful site visits from all three candidates. We had some wonderful references from all the candidates as well. People were sending us random emails left, right, and center, right? Or reaching out in phone calls and texts. But the site visit for Tom was different for me. And in looking back, I think it kind of tipped the scales. The interviews were phenomenal. I think all the candidates really did a good job. They really were thoughtful in their process. In the case with the site visit for Tom, you could feel the passion from the people that had worked with him in detail. The superintendent of Medford couldn't stop talking for 20 minutes and glowing with praise. She considered him a huge ally in her battle and her process there in Medford. Working side by side with her, working side by side with the administrative staff of Medford, the coordination of the COVID response, the community involvement that was part of that process, the teacher involvement that was part of that process, the administrative involvement that was part of that process, was, they didn't really come down to a different decision with us, but the process was different. And the process of engagement, I think, is one that is a core theme that I think ebbs and flows through him. If you follow it back to his time in Salem with the academic parent-teacher teams and the way in which he engaged that community to raise that school, and he raised it in a very quick time. Within his second year, that school was the highest choice school in Salem, which says a lot that he was able to turn it around in such a way, in such a quick time, and people coming from all across Salem wanting to go there. You literally had teachers crying with us because of how much they appreciated the work that he did with them, and not to them, not for them, but with them, which is another thing I felt was important. He was there, in detail, working through the process with them, you know, holding them accountable to high standards, but also helping them achieve those high standards, which I think is a hugely important thing as well. You know, accountability is one thing, but the assistance and ability to coach, to guide, to lead, to mentor, to bring people up was something that came through time and time again in his conversations. You know, that only continued in the site visit when we met with the lady that was part of the educational leadership program, and he led the team of principal coaches, essentially, principals in training, and they were saying he's the best they've ever had in the way in which he counsels, mentors, grows teachers into teacher leaders into principals, helps them think about their practice, helps them grow their practice. So while he may, while he is relatively young, we can't discriminate based on that, but he brings a wealth of experience in that short period of time. You know, so there's so much more I could say, but I don't want to take all night, right? I want to make sure everybody has a chance to say their piece as well. You know, even little things like appreciating just the way he approached the interview, you know, wanting to make sure he, you know, knew each of us and said our names multiple times so that he knew each of us. You know, when we got a letter from a teacher in the district saying how he met that teacher's child once, one day on their visit, that teacher's child chose to go to the school, and on the first day coming back, he remembered the child's name and the father's name. Little things. It's not, you know, a pedagogy necessarily, but it's the little things of making people feel welcome, and being present and being available. The leadership just oozes from him, and that leadership includes equity leadership. It includes, you know, bringing people to the table. It includes growing principals, and for that reason, my number one candidate is Tom Milashevsky.
Sorry, someone muted me. Thank you, Tom. Well said. Carla?
Great, thank you, Chuck. I also would like to just say thank you to the screening committee and to the staff for all that they have done. This process for me has just been, it's been a fabulous process. It was very professional and very well done. So I really am proud to be part of that. In terms of our three candidates, I have to say that I feel like we got top shelf. We got three fabulous candidates. The resounding, some of the resounding words from these three gentlemen are just collaborators and people who genuinely care about their employees, personally and professionally. Parents, community members, teachers, staff, you know, multiple people said, we're going to be sad if he leaves. And just nice people, calm, cool and collected, and just nice people. So thank you for them and their examples and their professionalism. I too, kind of had two people that I was contemplating a lot about. I also had one that stood out for me and it made me really kind of jazzed up and excited about this whole process. That also was Tom Milashevsky. Yes, I asked a lot of questions because he is on the younger side. I am in agreement with Tom that the site tour that we have, which I felt like I gleaned the most information from, even more so than the interviews, the site tour was just, it gave me a lot of information. From Bates and him lifting up Bates School to, we had multiple people who cried. We had a teacher who cried and a parent who cried. just because of you could tell how heartfelt they were about what he had done. The little things that stood out for me, which really made an impact, was one student talking about a sibling of hers who was having a tough time, and he came out during recess to play basketball with that child, and that he seems to have motivated people on all levels, professionally and personally. The thing I really like about him and would be excited about him bringing to the district is how he will lift people up and encourage them to be leaders, right? So if you do that with your principals and in turn do that with your staff, that is going to run down and benefit our students. So I could go on and on. He put together a really impressive group of people to come and talk to us. Mayors of cities, 2 mayors, and multiple superintendents. And they just had the highest praise. So I would really look forward, and I would really be pleased if he would be the next leader of our district.
Thank you, Carla. Hi, John.
Thanks, Chuck. I definitely have 2 candidates. And first of all, thank you to the screening committee. Thank you to all involved. Dorothy, great job for who was brought forward. I've got to agree the site visit was most helpful for both candidates. But the person I'm actually leaning towards is Stephen. Knowing the fact that 15 teachers were invited to a Zoom meeting in a busy day, and all 15 took the time to show up, said something to me about his leadership style. The fact that they were willing to take that time and really go into depth on what he's done for the district spoke to me. Something today that happened, and we're all well aware of, is we're losing our high school principal. We need true leadership at this point that can guide a brand new principal in our flagship school. That is not an easy job. I would put high school principal right up there with our special education department. And I think knowing the background of Steve and knowing the feedback we got, just really with Kate's email today, truly spoke to me. The fact that he's already doing things in Portsmouth that our district needs as far as retention and building leadership. We got to hear from a teacher that became a building principal. That's leadership. That's leadership development. The fact that he's got a professional development program that is specific to Portsmouth, where the teachers can get their steps and ladders through these courses that don't transfer to another district, and the teachers want to take them, also says something to me, because that's working on retention. And those 3 topics that I really took away from: brain-based learning, differentiated learning, and equity-based learning, are all things that need to be in Reading. Not that they're not done now. I think he can bring them to the next level. One of the stories I picked up and it stuck with me was a student having lunch, and someone saying something in regards to her lunch, and that stuck with him, and that really delivered a message. I look back in his resume, knowing that he got hired as an assistant superintendent and agreed to take a year away from that position while still doing his work as assistant superintendent, stepped into a high school principal's role and did that job. He's got passion for education. He's got a resume that shows he is a lifelong learner and a lifelong educator. He's seen the results of his programs. He's been in a district long enough that he can see what happens, and he talked about some of the negatives that have happened from his programs and how he would have done them better. That was something I needed to hear, and I think Reading needed to hear, because it shows his leadership style and that he has that ability to shift as needed. I'll hold there for now, but I've got pages upon pages of notes that I took away from this that were just all positives for me. Thanks.
Thank you, John. Sean?
So first I want to echo everybody else's thanks for the selection committee and Dorothy and the staff support in doing this. I know it's been a ton of work, and like my colleagues, the slate of finalists we got here was a really impressive one. More than, multiple candidates here who really check a lot of the boxes for me and really are qualified in so many different ways. And so for me, what this really comes down to is, what you're prioritizing and how you value certain skills or traits that you may see, a little bit more strongly in one candidate or another. And so, one of my top priorities in selecting among these finalists has been to identify the candidate who's going to be, what I view as the culture leader we need in driving DEI work, anti-racism work. We need someone who doesn't just speak the language, but also can set the vision, but can also really know across all levels what it's going to look like to set effective goals, to develop effective professional development in this area. We need someone who's genuinely committed to ensuring that our school district, isn't one that kind of perpetuates the inequities and biases that got us to a place where, frankly, there's not a ton of diversity among the top candidates for this role, and we want to make sure that our school district's not a part in perpetuating some of those things going forward. And then the second thing I'm really focused on is which candidate I think is best positioned to lift up and support the incredible staff and administrators and everyone we have across the district. All of these candidates, talked quite a bit about empowering teachers and administrators, about leveraging the power of a team. We also need to ensure that our next superintendent can build teacher leaders, can provide our principals and administrators with the support and coaching that they need and they will value to help the incredible team that we already have to operate that much more efficiently. Like it sounds like all of you, there were two candidates that stood out for me, and as recently, Tom, as you said, as recently as dinner time tonight, I was still going back and forth and really thinking about the right answer. I was talking about it with my wife, and my 7-year-old suggested that I flip a coin. And that's she's, you learn things in math class, and flipping a coin is one of them, right? So I didn't flip a coin, for what it's worth. But it's really felt like that close of a call for me, and I feel like we've got a couple of candidates here who whichever one we choose tonight, we'd walk away from this feeling really good about the next few years in Reading. At the end of this, the person that I'm leaning towards, and the person that I think I prefer out of this process, is Tom Milashevsky. You folks, some of you folks have said this about the site visits, but the single most influential thing to me out of this process were the site visits. You really got a strong feel for who these folks are as people, as leaders. You really got a strong feel for what they presented in terms of who they are and what they believe in and what they prioritize, whether that holds true in their experience. And thinking about Tom's site visit, I don't know if I've ever heard more effusive praise for a candidate in a situation like that. We heard folks talking about how his commitment to equity and inclusion is so natural that it's really not even like a learned skill or practice for him. We heard about how phenomenally collaborative he is, how he builds, productive, trusting relationships with folks, oftentimes many years older and many years more senior than him, not in months and years, but in days and weeks. One thing that I heard, which really speaks to me about, an ability to be a great leader and a team builder, is that he's almost always the one in the room who sits quietly while everyone else talks, makes sure everybody else has said their piece, and then when the moment is right, is the one who says, "It sounds like what I'm hearing is," and has come up with a succinct version of the discussion that really encapsulates a little bit of everybody's views and makes them all feel real co-ownership in the outcome. that, you know, that carries a lot of weight with me. The other couple things that I just want to highlight, I know we're probably all talking a lot here, but the other couple things I wanted to highlight that really stuck with me and put me at ease with respect to some of the things that on paper I might have been a little, you know, anxious or nervous about. We heard absolute raves about the professional development approach that he created in Medford, right? You know, really tenured, experienced professionals who talked about how good he is at identifying just what they need in terms of coaching to take that next step. You know, one of the reservations that I had about Tom was he's got this amazing academic background, but relatively little practical experience, you know, compared to some of our other candidates. But several of the conversations we alluded to his sort of unique ability to infuse the practical problems and approaches that, you know, you're learning and experiencing in practice with all the new strategies and research that he's acquiring through his academic career. And that meant a lot to me. In terms of the interview 2 nights ago, I think everybody, you know, all of us in the room and everybody at home saw a candidate who's got, you know, this big enthusiastic personality that has a really good chance to, you know, remind us all as a community of the potential and excitement that lay ahead for our school district. Remind us all why we care so much, you know, about Reading when sometimes, you know, the way things have gone over the last few months, it can be tough to lose sight of the fact that we all do. You know, I think we also saw a candidate who really did his homework on Reading. And it struck me that, you know, if he learned that much about us in the last month or so, I can't even imagine how much more he's going to learn in the next 5 months or so if we choose him tonight. So, you know, this was a tough call. I feel really, you know, I feel really good about, you know, 2 of these candidates and you know, I'm confident we're going to be in a good spot either way. Thanks.
Thank you, Sean. Aaron, did you?
Yep, I'll go. So I wanted to start off reflecting a little bit, similar to Tom. I've been living and breathing this for several weeks, having taken part in the screening committee as I was dealing with COVID, which was interesting. But I just really want to emphasize that I've taken this process very seriously. I've been incredibly thoughtful. I would almost venture to say it's consumed my thoughts recently. I fall asleep thinking about what's the right decision for our community. I wake up and I'm like, oh, I gotta think about this. So this is, I don't minimize how important this decision is and how important it is for our community. I've thought a lot about the amazingly talented leadership we have in our district right now, and the fact that we're losing a key member of that leadership. I've thought about our amazing staff and what a challenging year they have had, and how underappreciated our leadership and our teachers are feeling. I've thought about our students in the district and what a really, truly brutal year they have had, and how serious the needs are going to be as we think about returning to school in September. I've thought about how divided our community has been over the last year, and it's not just one event, right? There's been too many to name that I think have really pitted neighbor against neighbor, parents against teachers, teachers against administrators, and more. And it's deeply troubling to me. And it's important to me that we find a way out of this together. And there's some really big things coming up for the Reading Public Schools. So, you know, however we go back to school in the fall, it's not going to look like the fall of 2019. I hope it doesn't look like the fall of 2020, but it's going to have to be something a little different. We have ongoing space issues in the district. We probably have a major building project in our future. We have a lot more work to do in our commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion. You know, that work has been started, but it's important to me that we find someone who can really continue to lead that in a significant and substantial way. And I still think we need to look at full day kindergarten and how to make that free for our community members. So those aren't small things. That being said, that I also struggled with two candidates, really wrestled with it. I sought a lot of feedback from parents and from staff. And it wasn't until today that I took the time to go back and look at my site visit notes that a clear front runner arose for me, and that's Tom Milichewski. Like several others have said, I was blown away by that site visit, and we had 3 really powerful site visits. But when that day ended, I was just on this like high, like I was so full of excitement and hope and possibility, and I was so astounded that so many people felt so highly about this individual. So because it's something that the community didn't get to take part in, I grabbed a few quotes that I wanted to share that I hope it's okay that I share. So the superintendent said that she gives him her highest recommendation in 26 years in education. And she must have said highest recommendation 3 or 4 times. She also called him a rare jewel. The central office team said that they had over-the-top praise for him. They think he's well positioned and well qualified to be a superintendent. And most importantly, they all expressed feeling that he had improved their leadership abilities and that they had learned from him in the past year. There was a principal who commented that he has a strong moral compass, will listen and collaborate, values opinion, will bring the community together, surrounds himself with the right people, will justify a decision if it's best for kids, and is respectful and classy. A parent said he believes in others and makes them believe in themselves, and he lifted everybody up every day. Another principal said that they were hesitant about his age at first, but quickly realized how much they could learn from him, that he shows empathy while challenging you to grow in your game. A school committee member said she'd moved to Reading for him. Another school committee member said that he was a saving grace, that he easily stepped in, was a workhorse, took the time to look at every player, see the strengths, and bring those to the table. He was a great communicator and made all feel valuable. Another school committee member said he's a change agent with unique ability. He made deep, meaningful, and foundational changes. And another school committee member said he has a productive way of engaging people of all ranks and bringing them to the table. He's a consensus builder. A former school committee member from where he worked said he's a real talent, an instructional leader, committed to equity work, not just about race, but also about abilities, captures hearts and minds, builds amazing relationship with kids. Someone he's worked with at Harvard said he understands that it's not about doing something to a community, but about being a partner in driving change in a thoughtful and meaningful way. And one of the Harvard advisors said he's the top candidate she's seen in a long time. I couldn't help from walking away from this site visit feeling like he was someone we needed to snatch up, and that we would be missing out on a rare opportunity if we didn't. I have a lot more written down I'm happy to talk about, but I don't want to take up all the time.
Thank you, Erin. So I won't preface my choice with suspense. I'll say right up front that my selection is Tom Milichewski, as with others, and I'll be briefer because a lot of the things that qualities that have been highlighted very articulately by the committee, I share. But some things that really struck me, first of all, his level of energy was off the charts in his interview and his and all the site visits and everything. It just really showed me that level of energy showed me that he really wanted to be part of Reading and come to Reading. Tom's going to he'll be a superintendent somewhere for the start of next school year, and I think it's our rare opportunity to be the first ones to try to snatch that up. His connection I've talked to some staff as well, and his connection to staff was just outstanding. And our new superintendent's going to have some work to do with that. And I really feel that the feedback I got from staff that he's the guy that's going to do that, and he's going to whenever there's change, there's angst. No matter how much we try to assure people that they'll be all right, there's still angst. Tom puts staff at ease. They're comfortable with him. They're going to be comfortable with him, and there's just a connection there. And as Tom Wise said, I couldn't have said it better. It's just that he oozes leadership. I mean, in every question that he answered, there was a level of leadership in the answers, in the way he would approach things, and just extremely engaging to all of us, to staff. When he walked in the room, he knew everybody's name, not just the school committee, but the other people that were in attendance. That's important to me. That's someone used the term little things. Those are the little things that are important. That connection, and that makes a person. He's a real person first and foremost, and I think that showed to me. Someone mentioned his credentials. When I first got the candidates, I was wowed by all three of them. But when I saw Tom's, I just thought, geez, is this guy always going to be the smartest guy in the room? He doesn't come across that way. He comes across as a person. There was a significant amount of humility that I saw again in every answer that he gave. When he talked about his youthfulness and whatever, there's a lot of humility there, and I think that matches well with the people that he's going to be surrounded with. All highly talented staff that we currently have. That he's not going to come across to them as always being the smartest guy in the room. He's just going to really, I believe, connect with them and listen to them. I also, along those same lines, it was very clear to me, and this is the coach part of me, is when you talk to your teams, there's no I in team, and Tom clearly that oozed, to use Tom Wise's term, that oozed from him as well. He's not a lone ranger, and we don't need a lone ranger. and he's going to rely on people all the time, including us. You know, and I know people have mentioned the site visits, and I'll just briefly mention, you know, again, they were all good, right? So, you know, his was, and I'll, someone mentioned the superintendent there. I mean, she was just electric, and she didn't have to say what she said, you know. So she went out, I think Aaron said, she went out of her way to give him her highest recommendation. And, you know, she's the real deal. And, you know, for her to do that, you know, meant a lot to me. The other one that really resonated with me was when we met with the students. I think that was the first site visit we had with him that day, and I made the joke about the kids being better than having a cup of coffee, because they were just but they were so great. And the one of that group that really sat with me was the 26-year-old electrician. Hey, you know, I mean, he was coming in to give a recommendation as Tom, as his coach, as his, I think his soccer coach. And, you know, that was really sincere. And I think he was doing a site visit from his car going to work. There was so much sincerity there, and it just really resonated. I'm still thinking about it, and just to hear that type of recommendation coming from a student was, you know, as Aaron said, you know, you go back to your notes. That's one of the things that, you know, as everyone, I had 2 candidates that, you know, I could still be very proud with either one of them. But when you go back and look at certain things, that was one of those things that kind of just pushed it over the goal line for me. And, you know, I would be very excited to see Tom start his central office leadership role in Reading, and would be very proud of that. So, thank you. So I guess from there, I would declare that Tom Wise, top candidate was Tom Milichewski. Carla Nazaro's top candidate was Tom Milichewski. John Park's top candidate was Steven Zadravak. Sean Brandt's top candidate was Tom Milichewski, and Aaron Gaffin's top candidate was Tom Milichewski, and Chuck Robinson's top candidate was Tom Milichewski. So I guess at this time, I would entertain a motion from the committee.
All right, so Chuck, you're counting that as our ballot vote then, is essentially is what
Correct.
we're doing there.
Yeah.
Okay. So the motion is I move that Tom Milichewski be appointed superintendent of schools for Reading Public Schools, subject to the successful negotiation of a contract of employment mutually agreeable to the candidate and the school committee, and signed by both parties or their designees.
Second.
I'll have a roll call vote. Sean?
Aye.
Aaron?
Aye.
Carla?
Aye.
John?
Nay.
Tom?
Aye.
Chuck? Aye. The vote being 5-1, the motion passes. So is Dorothy still here?
Dorothy is still here.
So so that we follow along again. I haven't done this before. I just want to make sure. So did we follow all appropriate protocol?
I believe that you did. I believe that you did. Sometimes there's a revote to make it unanimous, but that's up to you.
Okay, I was thinking that, and I just wanted to make sure. And with the John, would you be willing to have a revote to make it unanimous?
It would not change my vote, Chuck.
Okay. That's fine. Thank you. Okay. So I guess it's time to call Tom, right?
Yeah, I just texted you his phone number if you don't have it.
Okay, so
That's
Why
your call. That's the call you get to make.
I feel like Bill Belichick on draft day.
So I would suggest that the committee recess while you go make the
Yep.
call.
So we'll take a 5-minute recess. Okay, I'd like to reconvene the meeting. I had a short conversation with Tom, and he's very thankful and excited to accept the position. I will text you guys his phone number, because it's, you know, I'm sure you'd maybe like to call him yourselves and wish him well. So I guess at this point we're ready for the executive session.
Yes. We haven't discussed if we're kind of return. I don't think we need to return because there's nothing to vote on. It's just strategy discussions, right? Okay. So move to adjourn to executive session for the purposes of strategy negotiation of contract for the superintendent of schools
Second.
without returning.
Second.
Sean,
Aye.
Aaron,
Aye.
John,
Aye.
Aaron, Carla,
Aye.
Tom,
Aye.
and Chuck. Aye. Dorothy, thank you very much. I'll be in touch.
Thank you,
You are
Dorothy.
very
Thanks,
welcome.
Dorothy.
Congratulations.
Thank
Thank you
you.
very much. Gail, are you going to update the meeting?
We go into her link.
Yes.
Yes, I will update it now to be 8 o'clock.